You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This show is dedicated to those who live and love from the heart in infinite ways. In today's episode, we will discuss, share, gain insights, and get clarity on the wisdom and teachings of the mystic and seer Almin, as well as discover more about the miraculous healing modality called Belvaspata. Your host for this show is Paul.
Lee Harris writes that if today you suddenly become aware that your life is not how you want it to be, that is not a tragedy. It is a gift because you have seen something you did not see before. You have seen the next part of the journey. Welcome to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa, on a freezing cold winter's night here east of Johannesburg. It's the 14th of June. 2018, and we're going to kick off with something suitable for all of us as a light family. The theme from the Gladiator soundtrack. It's called Now We Are Free, as performed by the Indigo Choir. And there we were listening to the Gladiator theme called Now We Are Free by the Indigo Choir. They have an album out. It's on YouTube. Go and have a look. Really fantastic, fantastic choir. We're playing some choir or choral music tonight by choirs, obviously, just simply because we're all in this together. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's been an incredibly different week for us all to work through, lots of shifts and changes, and I'm sure all of you are completely aware of a lot of that, what is going on within you. Welcome to the show. Let's spend the next hour and a little bit just spending the time together and going over the actual processes of what we are working with, understanding why and how, and getting some depth out of it along the way. So last week the theme of the show is really about what we allow into our lives continues and what we are allowing, etc., etc. And this has been a very interesting process for me to actually work with over this last week, because it stuck with me, that title. And I keep looking at, am I allowing this? Am I allowing that? What is programming? What is belief? What is newness? What is dissolving the duality? What is oneness? What is the separation process here? And just actually questioning everything and allowing that question then to provide an answer. Nick and I were, of course, discussing a lot of it this week, but it feels like humanity is perhaps in a very stagnant position again. They're stuck, going through the motions of life without any interest, passion, or enthusiasm for any process. Just can't motivate people. Meaningless living for them, it's almost like, for me, as I said, it's almost like they're living in this death knell that's happening around them. It's like they are just one foot in front of the other, There's no actual spark of life within many, many people. And of course, on a business level, things are absolutely just jam stuck. And it's interesting, the conversation that Nick and I have, what it is that we have to do to unstick things without having to try and fix them. And there's always this aspect of being and doing, of accepting, of allowing, and then coming into action to make some shifts, but never having to actually fix or repair it. But deep down, the belief system, the programming is there for me, is that, we've got to fix this, we've got to fix that, etc., etc. And every conversation I have on a business level, people are all saying the same, stuck in the complaint scenario, stuck in the whinging and moaning, blaming all sorts of different processes along the way. And surely I'm not saying that some of those are not responsible, but at the end of the day, I'm truly grateful to understand on some level that my external environment is a result of my internal environment. And that's really what tonight's show is all about. There's also feelings almost at times where we want the earth just to swallow us up, that we can't really process the enormity of what's going on. It is unfathomable. But being that we are living in the year of living in unfathomableness, I'm practicing that word, we are going to have to work through a tremendous amount of things just to get a scope of understanding so that we can get onto that next step or that next rung where we can just look around and we can say, okay, our perspective has now shifted. But we also know, all of us, that we are on the cusp of a glorious new dawn, yet we're still having to process this old and dissolve it bit by bit. There's the paradox. It doesn't happen overnight. Almin is correct that this one will not be handed to us on a silver platter. So I'm asking you again, what is it that you're allowing into your life? Let's look at an external level. There's a beautiful post come up on Almin Diary where Almin's talking about the cracks and the fissures that are happening in the Earth's surface. And she has said that humanity has not built up the immunity to deal with these occurrences, with the situation along the way. And that's such a multiple level of information that she's providing to us. I mean, you can see for us here in South Africa, our infrastructure is really, really just collapsing, especially within the smaller towns and areas. And there's just these huge potholes and these huge sinkholes that are appearing, where the old is being driven away by the old that is driving over it. Just giving you a pause there to think about that all the time. We haven't yet got to the point where we're all driving in different kinds of vehicles or vehicles that don't need fuel, etc., etc. And yet we're in that catch-22 situation of the newness is there, but the old is still apparent. And that is something that is really, really deep down in my heart this week. And in today's show, we're going to have a look at it. So let's look at those feelings. Let's look at where we're at. Let's not deny ourselves the particular experiences that these feelings carry for us. And let's pay attention to them. But let's not wallow in any of them, and let's go into it with a good heart. So here we go. Matla Carter, the healer, says, while the path of the heart may not always feel safe, you are the vast, majestic space in which all feelings come and go. It's not a space that is cold, distant, and detached, but one that is overflowing with warmth and pregnant with the creativity of the unknown. To turn from yourself in the face of activation, to get tangled up in the forest of shame, blame, resentment, and complaint is unkind, and merely enforces the ancient, worn-out circuitry of self-aggression. There is nothing less safe than attacking your own vulnerability. But to stay with yourselves in times of activation, to practice intimacy with the contradictions, and to renew your vow to never abandon the visitors as they appear. The invitation is to turn back towards yourself and breathe new life into the sensitive, into the tender, the shaky, and the raw. Bear witness to the new circuitry as it forms. When the old strategies of abandonment begin to fall away, all that remains is your burning heart. There is nothing more alive than that. To truly hold and take care of yourself in radically new ways, because there is nothing safer than that. Does that not explain exactly where we are all at within ourselves? And time to honor all of that. And that shows an honor of all of us, fellow gladiators, fellow warriors. And yet, let's look at the inner child as well, because that inner child is wanting something completely different. And it is stamping its foot day in and day out in order to get itself noticed. Tonight's show, A New Reality Dawns, and then subtitle, or is it? That's what we're going to discover as we're going along. First of all, audio from the Seer Almeen, where she talks about what it means to be real. We're going back to 2008 now. She explains how the cosmos has been cleansed of artificial intelligence. This includes programming, matrices, and all the watches of the matrices with which the medieval alchemists worked. So let's examine ourselves what still lies within us, what we allow there, and then we'll develop that particular insight and content as we go through the show. Here's Almeen, what it means to be real.
For most of 2008, a very concerted effort has been made by the Infinite to get rid of layer upon layer upon layer of artificial intelligence, pre-programmed ways that told us how to be. For example, genetic programming. Other things are social conditioning, grids that programmed species into specific ways of behaving and being, matrices that told us what was acceptable behavior and what was not. And then there are many other programs that have been found that have been eliminated as getting rid entirely of that which is artificial programs put in place that we have to live according to. But why were there so many artificial programs? Because artificial intelligences, such as the Watchers of the Matrix, and we mention these on our website, wheelsofthegoddess.com, www.wheelsofthegoddess.com, deals with the secrets of alchemy. And on there we explain how the old alchemists used what has become obsolete, the Watchers of the Matrices and the matrices themselves. So why are these things now obsolete? Because anything that was made from a foreign substance, from building blocks, from fields, if you will, many different programs that designed life, anything that was foreign to the being of the Infinite, did in fact create something unreal. That means something that is illusory. But how can one create something unreal in the being of that which is real? By separation. Separating that, like the separating of an atom that belongs together, causes distortion. We therefore find that we could never be real as long as there were intelligences that were programmed to tell us how to behave, and as long as we were made from building blocks that were in fact separation-based. That means our very basis was illusion-based. Coming out of the dream into a state of full awakening means that we are made from the infinite's being itself. A good way to explain this would be as though our inner child is speaking to us. It is made from our being. Although it seems to be separate, saying, please, can you stop working so much so that I can play? It is nevertheless not separate. It is simply a unique perspective that is part of what we are. This is what we have become. This is the relationship we have with the infinite being that from which we have arisen.
And you're back in studio with myself, your host for tonight's show, Paul. Nico's on the sound desk, and there we were listening to the Seer Almeen when she discussed what it means to be real. And I'm just thinking there that the only thing that's separate from us at any time is that which we are not paying attention to, or that what we are paying attention to in terms of seeing a perspective about it in terms of old programmings or beliefs. I just posted up on Almeen Diary. Almeen says that which we value is that which we get. She says hardship and deprivation can seem heroic, a treasured identity. That which we value is that which we get. Let us therefore appreciate the gifts of mercy and the blessings of bounty. Life delivers to our doorstep that they may increase instead. This is what we were saying a little bit last week about the aspects of suffering and the need to create that identity that you can tough things out, or you can do this, or you can do that. And it's just creating states of separation. So Almeen was saying that which we value is that which we get. I suppose in old programming we were saying, yes, you get what you deserve. And that's been part of the conversation around these offices the last few days. And then we've had to change the language as we understand it a bit. Almeen here, going back to 2014 now, discusses the stage of enlightenment and why it's dangerous to stay in either the emptiness or the bliss. She explains why withdrawing from life is not the answer, and how eventually we must learn that the play has a purpose. This audio is taken from as part of the Fireside Lectures featured in the I Am Presence 2014 book that Almeen refers to in the Journey to the Heart of God. Here is Almeen, Enlightenment, the Wrong Way and the Right Way.
My loves, I think unless somebody has a pressing question, that would conclude our questions for tonight. Let me just think if there was anything else. There is. Our Russian office has sent a question. The Russian office says that people are misinterpreting the meaning of the word silence of the mind. They are disconnecting from life, and not my students, but there's a group in some of the Russian mountains where they won't speak, they don't interact, they don't make eye contact. They just live in this absolute void to make sure that their mind is silence. And so when officials go there, because they still need to register them, they need to make sure they have their data. In Russia, every person has to register an address. And so if they go there, they can't even speak to them. They speak like a baby that's trying to learn to speak, just nonsensical language. So he wanted to make sure that we have some clarity on this. The silence of the mind is not something that you have to diligently create. It is that which reveals itself when you cease to oppose life. Opposition to life and the suppression of past painful memories is what creates the dialogue. When you have belief systems, and that's part of why being around people can be that disturbing, when you have belief systems, you have to keep them in place by feeding them with thoughts. So this frantic dialogue in the mind, no, that can't be true because it doesn't conform to my belief system. It continually tries to affirm its reality. The ego does the same. To keep your egoic self as the self, which is what most of the world does, is done by affirming it through the dialogue. So it keeps belief systems in place. When you don't have the belief systems, you don't have the dialogue, and vice versa. Resistance to life creates the dialogue. The dialogue puts you either in the next moment or the moment before. But with dialogue in your head, you cannot be in the present moment. I often ask people to repeat themselves, and the reason is that a thought might have crossed through my mind, and I know I cannot hear them when there's a thought. So I ask them to say it again, and then my mind is totally still, and I enter into their awareness so that I can look through their eyes. Because the same word for two people does not mean the same thing. The true listening can only take place in the absence of the dialogue of the mind. And the dialogue of the mind opposes life, and therefore it is there. When we remove our resistance to life, the dialogue stills. Now, in the book Journey to the Heart of God, I've mapped out how this works. First of all, there is almost a disassociation with life. It's called the emptiness. To stay there is gross stagnation. It will age you, it will cause havoc with your health because these resources sift through your finger like sand. Any personal power that you've built up, and remember today we spoke about the fact that when you are in full cooperation with life, you don't need the power. But the benefit of the power is that you can see something vast and profound like that. You can change by spinning on a dime like that. That's the benefit of power. You can gain vast perceptions in an instant, which gives you more power, the more perception. So it is indeed a blessing, but not in the way the world thinks of it. So the first thing is that if you stay in that total vacuum, there's no emotion, there's just this silence. Life is very bland, and you really must push yourself through it if you can. The next stage you go into is highly addictive. And what makes it so addictive is that the bliss is so deep. It ripples through your cells. It's hard even to walk. And I remember walking down Northwest Portland, and my daughter had me by the hand. As I didn't even know where I was going. She was helping me up and down curbs. It's a time where you are so expanded, but you have entered not the emptiness of life, but the fullness. And the fullness of life creates this bliss. The next stage that you go through in the silencing of the mind is where your mind is silent in that it is the observer. But once again, you walk back on the stage, even though you now know that this is just a play, and you stay in character, because the play has a purpose. It is teaching the audience. The audience is also you. So you are the observer, and you are the observed. So one goes one side of the pendulum, dialogue of the mind, you go the other side of the pendulum, eventually you end up in the middle. But at no time ever is withdrawing from life more holy than to be in the middle of the river where the water is always new and fresh. To engage fully and passionately as the infinite flows through you into expression.
And there the Sia Almin was talking about enlightenment process, the right way and the wrong way, or the different ways that are available. She says that we cannot withdraw from life. We need to engage fully. So if this is something that you've been really working on and you understand that part of the process is that you're not able to withdraw, you just have to find a way that you can engage more fully and let infinite life flow through you into its full expression. And that takes us, into a completely different stage of being. And I know all of us are experiencing that. There's these automatic processes that are going on, these automatic experiences that begin to flow through us, the perspective, the power, all of that process then begins to shift and alter. Really incredible to work with. But still, I reckon, and let me say that I recognize fully that there is a part of me that still wants to withdraw, still wants to run away. But perhaps that's because I belonged to what was called spiritual cult for many, many years in earlier years. Perhaps the programming is still very, very much within me on all of that level. Anyway, that was then. This is now. So we're going to now listen to the Sia Almin. She talks about the functional and dysfunctional feminine side of ourselves through the class The Oneness is Unstable. We're going back again a few years as well to one of the fireside chats. But just listen to this with new ears, with an open heart, and just see where you are currently and what it is still that is contained within you, within your belief system. When I downloaded this particular track earlier today, I saw a lot of the comments about it, and all I saw in those comments was a lot of people's belief systems coming out about feminine and masculine and their experiencing, but men are this and women are that, etc., etc. And again, I know we're not talking on the physical level whatsoever, but these are all forms of expression that come out. And if we are just trying to work towards creating a sense of stability, this is going to be problematic for us. Let's listen to Oneness is Unstable with the Sia.
I had for a long time found that there were flaws in the feminine. I just could not comprehend where they came from. First of all, the feminine, the oneness that we are talking about, it has been completely handicapped because the inner senses have been stifled and cut off. We had no way to access them. We did not strengthen them with identifying them. We did not, in fact, live them. The feminine has been like a one-legged person trying to run a race. And that's why life has been so over-dominated by masculine qualities. Now, the first thing about the feminine that has puzzled me is the neediness. I need to be fulfilled. And also, where does this extra energy come from? We understand that the way it produces energy will produce excess energy. But why is the masculine depleted and the feminine having much energy? Because of the need for external love, external attention, external validation. If she were in oneness with the masculine, the validation of his love for her is there. Whether or not they're connecting, whether or not they're talking, whether or not he is paying attention. The attention is hers all the time because of the field that unites them, that bridge that unites them. When that is broken, and the inner space and the outer space are not communicating, are not living together. It doesn't happen with external relationships either. Oneness is an unstable state to be in, because life will come and bounce you back into activity to a way that you separate. The very insufficient energy source of polarity is at least stable for a longer while. before it too starts to run out of energy. But the oneness has been very unstable. And part of it is because she has been functioning on half alone. She's been trying to function in external space with very, very little input from inner space. External space has only seven, and it's the 7 big sections of the tube torus. It has 7 senses. We know of the 5, with the sense of smell being the sense that never fell. That's why we emphasize fragrance so much. So the next thing is that the senses that are the 2 we don't know is in fact the sense of the skin when it isn't touched. You know, goosebumps, ripples going through the skin confirming something, hair standing up on the back of your neck, your scalp is crawling. It feels like your skin is crawling because you're in the presence of something you don't like. All of these things is the response of the skin when there isn't actually a physical touching going on. This is the 6th sense. The 7th sense is the response of the organs. And the response of the organs is when my stomach tightens. I can't breathe, you know, I'm being stifled of my expression. You know, there's nausea on your stomach when you're just really in a place where you really shouldn't be. Heart aching, you know, heart pounding. All of the responses of these organs to our external life. This is the 7th sense. With the corresponding 7 times 96 senses that are part of the inner senses, they correspond to the outer senses. There's 96 inner senses for every 1 outer sense that there is. And this is being cut off from her 7 times 96 senses. She has had to live in a way that really is a masculine way, trying to live in the feminine. Now, the one thing that we found when we discussed this as a class as to why this looking to be fulfilled from the outer is taking place for her, and also why she is depleting the masculine. Number 1, she knows she is to search for something. She knows she is to include something within herself. It is the nature of the feminine to move boundaries fluidly and then include the unknowable within the unknown. And he includes the unknown into the known. The spiral of the bathwater, when she has included all of life within her, will pull his energy into her if that is all she does. She has to do output as well. The output has to have intention. Then it matches the input. Otherwise, she is sucking energy from her environment. What is it that she has to contribute? What is it that she has to give to life so that there isn't a debt that accrues and now she gets bumped out of this very comfortable position where he provides and she is receiving only? Well, she has to gather from the unknowable, and the unknowable turned into the unknown, and the unknown turned into experience, is a massive source of energy that allows almost immediate manifestation. We find that when she opens herself to her inner space, she becomes what she has always been meant to be, the embodiment of the mystery, the conveyor of the mystery. She articulates the mystery without understanding it. The understanding of it comes from the masculine. She simply lives it. When she is fully supplied from within, life is an endless adventure. And it's an endless song. It's a poem. She doesn't have to sit and wait for him to fulfill her. And when her unmet expectations are there, she becomes a victim. Now, the second thing that we found, and in fact, let's talk a little bit first about how we fix this first thing. The first thing is fixed when the feminine does not dedicate all of her time and all of her life only to appearances. She has become judged by her appearances. Instead of thinking to himself as he enters her in intercourse, I am entering the temple of the unknown. I am entering the mystery. Instead, it has become face value. How does she look? How does she perform? How does she respond? That determines what I receive from the experience. That is a complete superficial face value that is given to her, and what is in our environment we bring about. Why has she been judged so superficially? Because she has lived so superficially. She has never truly lived. As this awaken, life begins and she follows the mystery. She was not meant to be part of religions and dogma and rules and regulations. She follows the mystery.
Welcome back to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa, broadcasting live right now, 14th of June. It's 9 in the evening, freezing cold weather, and Almeen the Seer was discussing how oneness is unstable and giving us some great insights into the functional and dysfunctional aspects of the feminine. In Noticing Beauty, Almeen tells us that beauty surrounds us every moment if we will only recognize it and set aside our conditioned judgment and programming. It may also exist in what we have been taught to reject as unworthy or uninteresting. But these things are also part of creation, and they are deserving of our understanding for their purpose. Absolutely beautiful along the way. So we've got some more audio from Almeen coming up tonight. This is all leading us to the deep insights of living in the principles of high magic, and Almeen also discusses right now, as we have to look at going beyond the infantile stage of channeling and opening portals, etc. And she talks about the New Age community there, because this comes from the upcoming Heralds of the Dawn. She comments on the cluelessness that pervades the New Age community, in which light workers routinely channel and open portals without really knowing what they're accessing or who they're letting in. And she's quite defined in this particular audio clip. Very, very interesting comment again. But again, in terms of the show's theme and the question of the month is, what are you allowing in? Let's listen to this, beyond the infantile stage of channeling and opening portals. And then Almeen will talk also about how we can restore the frequency fields of ourselves and the earth. Riveting insight in these clips.
So, dearest ones, to begin to analyze and assess some of the information that Elohim Va'el has given us, I want to start by looking at this issue of portals. He discussed how the throat chakra is a portal, and that the throat in our solar system is Saturn. So the question is, portal into what? I have actually very seldom done more than a veiled criticism. And criticism, meaning not that I think it shouldn't be there, is that we need to understand that it's not something that at your advanced maturity of spiritual evolution you want to engage in. The New Age community goes around opening portals left and right, but they have no clue about where these portals open to. They channel, Tom, Dick, and Harry from the spirit realms or the soul realms, but they don't even know what the difference is. They absolutely adore the ascended masters, but they don't understand their binding and enforcing agenda and their interference with human life for self-gain. So, the spirits and the souls that they're channeling, they could have been mass murderers. They have no clue. They repeat rhetoric that works because they get it out of the channeler's mind. So this is what we have been steering free from. We have been clear from the beginning that even delightful little beings like fairies and elves, when they're in your home, they have the same character flaws as opening the door and inviting people from the street to come in and live in your home. So we need to grow beyond the infantile stage, which is a welcome stage, because it makes people aware of the hidden realms at least, and gets them thinking out of the box of the New Age movement. We are involved in rising beyond established paradigms. They are broadening the established paradigm, but it is nevertheless so limited that it cannot bind us, and we should not get trapped by this. It's important to know portal to where. He has noted that the Saturn is a portal, or the throat chakra is a portal, and the Sun is a major portal through which whole civilizations have moved. So, moved where? This is an important issue, so let's go there. The truth of the matter is that every one of your chakras is a portal. That which we do this day is to restore the song of the self, to complete any holes in the frequency, because it starts with us. Electromagnetic bombardment erodes the frequencies of the song of the self, causing holes in our energy, deterioration, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It does the same to the earth. And so she too starts to get signs of decay, of wear and tear, of damage. She too starts to age. We can restore the song of the earth in its fullness by restoring it within ourselves. It isn't that nature isn't singing its song. It's that attitudes of duty, responsibility, and resentment against our labor, against others, blocks these songs from flowing through us, from us. We entrain the earth by the songs of our being. And the earth entrains us by the songs of the lands. If we will but allow and listen.
And there, Almeen the seer is telling us if we would but allow and listen. In Divinity Quest, card number 60, Karatu Sihut Sabach, Almeen tells us that the environment was designed to support the manifestation of our dreams, as vision and attitudes of our heart combine to activate the basic elements of existence into supportive action. Only doubt, fear, and the withholding of our joyous expectation can prevent it. Absolutely spot on and beautiful. Again, Karatu Sihut Sabach, the environment is designed to manifest our dreams. So, what we're going to do about all of these particular processes, we can see just from what we've listened to tonight with the seer that there's been lots of perhaps programming beliefs that we may not have been aware of. I, for myself, have really enjoyed that particular process over the last day, and as the show comes together week by week, I really learn from that a lot. So thank you for allowing me to do that, everyone, and thank you for being part of that as a light family and as the warrior and gladiator along the way. My response really into this process is when I'm in a state of stagnation, when I'm feeling stuck, when I'm in a state of separation, is just to cultivate more fluidity and begin to live in a different expectation process, but also being fully aware of the state that I've been in or where I'm coming from, so that I can also dissolve it with awareness and not just avoid the issues and say that they don't literally exist. That's my response. Here, Almeen will now talk about cultivating fluidity, and let's see what she has to say about that. This is part 2 of her series on cultivating fluidity. A little bit dated, but still so relevant for us. See you on the other side.
So let's see what you can do to enhance fluidity. You will find that the visionaries in our history, Socrates, Plato, these incredible people that saw further. The Wright brothers, they invented the airplane when nobody thought anybody could fly that's in their right mind. All these things. They could see further beyond the form into the possibilities. You will find that they had one of two things going for them. They either were born with their assemblage point on a slightly different position. None of us is exactly the same, but it's lighting up the same fibers. But in that, the positions are slightly different, which accounts for taste. But sometimes somebody's position is quite a little bit different, but they're still assembling the same reality. These are the visionaries. But mostly what it is people with fluid movements within this reality still, but fluid movements. So how to get those fluid movements? You can do a lot of brainstorming in your life. And brainstorming needs to take the absurd into consideration. For instance, you have a problem. Okay, here's how you do it. It's that, okay, we've got a little bit of light. Grab hold of it. All right, now we have the next question. Grab hold of that. Now we have the next question. And so it goes on and on. There's a rock in the river. Fluidity demands that I flow around the rock. I do not expend and waste energy by damming up against the rock. Damnation is, what they call it in the scriptures. It is stagnant energy that isn't growing. So I'm going to flow around that rock in the river no matter what. So, my brothers and sisters, you say, okay, look, brainstorm. What is it? You have to start with the core. What is it that I really, really want? I want quietness from the traffic. I want less feeling of neighbors right on top of me. I can hear when the man goes to the bathroom at 4 every morning. So I want a feeling of expansiveness. I feel cooped up. You've got to analyze what the real question is that is so vitally important, and it will serve you in real good stead when you start to use sobriety. What is the question? Get the question, and now, even when you think you have the question, test. Is there any other question it could be? Is it that I have pleasant memories about moving when I was a kid? Is it that there's a density in this area that I can't quite put my finger on? Is it that I have bad memories in this house about the time that we had a rocky spot in our marriage and it would make me feel like a new beginning? Is it that this house reminds me of an old me that isn't there any longer because I've grown so hard? You've got to brainstorm even the question. But now, no, the question is, I want space and silence, because it's where spirituality feels best to me. So, okay, if that is the true question, now let's start brainstorming solutions. You start giving yourself solutions to this question that you've honed down by peeling the onion, peeling till you get the core. Now you've got the core question. You start giving yourself solutions. You write all the solutions down on the board, because even though the solution might be totally absurd, that's why you can't criticize each other when you're doing it together. It might have one element in that when you put it with an element in another solution, the two of them produce innovative thought. So you say, he wants to live here, I'll let him live here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my own house. Okay, he can come visit. Eventually he'll want to move in because he likes to be with me, and that way I kind of stalk him into getting the other house, and because he doesn't mind having a house, he just doesn't want to do the move. But I'll do the move and just finally he'll not like being in the other house, so he'll come to my house. So, okay. Now, there's all sorts of reasons why that won't work. Not enough money, doesn't matter. It's a thought. So, next thought. If the expansiveness is what I want, why don't I get a cabin within, what is a comfortable drive for me? 25 minutes drive in not heavy traffic. Why don't I get a cabin? Or a little house with a garden, in an old neighborhood where there's just mostly retired people. It's quiet. I will turn it into my little temple. Or, why don't I take my savings, put a deposit down on another house, start moving our furniture in gradually, bit by bit by bit, and finally say to him, honey, there's no trouble involved. Everything's already there. And then just come home there tonight instead of here. Absurd, perhaps, but we were putting everything down. And then when we're all done, we look at where are the gaps. This solution, oops, not enough money. This solution, he'll be furious. He'll never forgive me. Okay, don't want to go there. This solution, yeah, but it doesn't really suit the bill. But this suits the bill, so I'll do this. Take this part of it as a good part. And then that's how you start. But it starts to look at alternative outside of the box. Fluidity is the opposite of thinking in a box. And fluidity of attitude. For instance, somebody does something to you that's really annoying. Instead of your usual response of, hey, listen, this is not okay. I'm protecting my borders. What you can do is expand your borders and include them within. And it would go like this. They do something that's really annoying, and you look at what they're doing and you realize they wanted your attention. They're a 2-year-old child inside that's abandoned. And so it becomes a funny joke if you look, hi, this person in this nice suit, with all these degrees or whatever, he's a 2-year-old. That's what he's doing. Oh, I'll give him love. And then you treat him like a child, for a second or two, role play and just say, oh, honey, you really want attention, don't you? I think you're cute. Stand on his foot and kiss him on his nose or whatever relationship you have. And suddenly the explosive situation has turned into a fun, loving moment, and off you go and do your day. You have to ask, is this a big deal? Do I really need to take a stand? No, I don't really need to take a stand. This is not my battle, and in fact, it isn't even a battle because the stakes are not worth having. See, what have I just said? We only fight the battles that are ours, and all battles are battles to extract perception for the sake of getting our power. Every single challenge you have in your life is a challenge about power. Every one. Because it's power challenging you through it. That's why we have challenges. It wants to see if you're ready to move on to the next level. So what we do is we have to decide, is this our battle? Okay, we don't want to get addicted to challenges, dive in there, fighting every battle in sight, because one strengthens that which you oppose. Instead of lighting a candle, if we oppose another's cruelty, and there are times you have to say no further. Don't step over this line. It's my battle and I'm protecting this person and I will not let you harm them. A warrior certainly does that. But they do it even as they see the perfection that lies above all this illusion. So my brothers and sisters, is it your battle? Is number one. And number two, are the stakes worth having? If you've already got these insights, don't go there. It's a waste of time. Just laugh it off and walk away. But if there are insights you haven't yet got, yes, it's your battle. And your battle is not with the other person. It's with the illusion that this thing presents at face value. Problem is never what it seems. As you do the fluidity, the assemblage point can move and you learn how.
And there in Cultivating Fluidity Part 2, the Sheikh Al-Amin was discussing how to create these plans and the need to brainstorm even the answers to our questions. She says that problems are never what they seem. And earlier in the year, we played some of the audio tracks from Al-Amin where she discusses that it's the way you ask your question that gives you the answer that you need in order to move forward. So look at that particular process. In the Principle of High Magic, number 273, Al-Amin writes, because others mostly live for the acceptance of people around them, they open their lives up to being influenced at the subtle levels by the feelings being projected at them. This has to be taken into consideration by the master in two progressive steps. Number one, to search for the good in others so that we may encourage its fuller expression. Number two, to realize that any judgment we have of another, whether good or bad, imposes our influence on another. Broadly speaking, this is a form of black magic. Therefore, we simply observe the way others express without any judgment. Staying neutral by having the knowledge that from our limited perspective, we cannot see that what may appear as negative actually serves a purpose in the grand scheme of things. Just the same way the shedding of autumn leaves may be a way of preparing the barren trees for great things to come. I must say, for me, really been an interesting development that in terms of some of the processes and the Kanaya having to work through with other people along the way. I realize fully that we have to cut the toxicity of certain relationships, and it has all been done and happening, and yet I hold no, aggression towards that particular process. And that's a fine line all the time, having to come into action to actually change those particular processes, but at the same time not allowing the toxicity of that to pollute my own being, my own feelings and experiences. So just up right today, 14th of June, Al-Amin has just put up a beautiful new audio, and she talks about what is about to happen has never happened before. Now listen to this paradox. In this conversation with the angel God, Al-Amin describes how and why the original ones come to the earth at certain times in the cosmic life cycle and the different paths that are available to us at the coming crossover point. And in that crossover point, she discusses two particular aspects where we are working through life and death, and then the aspect of those points joining together to create something brand new. And here she comes up with the fact that we now have a choice to make at the same time. And at the end of the day, I think this is what today's radio show and the theme is all about, having to make the choice within ourselves to live in joyous enthusiasm and not allowing the old processes to rule any longer. But yeah, make up your own mind. Literally, here it is. I mean, what is about to happen has never happened before.
The earth has broken the mesh through groundbreaking perception. And for that, the original ones were always present. I remember that, I believe it was in 2014 that there was an online course in that October that was about the forgotten manuscript. In that manuscript was a interview with me, and it said, I've come and gone to the earth many times, and they say, why do you come? And I say, I always come to help cosmoses die. You are the original ones. You have also always come to help cosmoses die, or if we're in the death cycle, to help a cosmos rebirth. Point A and point B is the time the original ones have always been on the earth. And they are capable of such groundbreaking perception to open up the mesh so that effortless passage through can be obtained. Nika, ube, vasatanaha. But what is about to occur has never happened before. Iyeta ishba, yet it has, okay? That's a little confusing, but let's refer back to our handout with the two ovals. Can you see our current position? There's a line that shows our current position. Now, see that death macrocosm of awakening that we're in is moving counterclockwise. So that means that we are shortly, and it's moving much faster than the left one. So it's moving rapidly. We don't know how much time it will take for us to close the different distance from our current position to point B. But we need to be aware, and this is why he has deliberately come to speak with us about this. We need to be aware that if we want to do the predictable thing at point B, which we will soon reach, we will either go from there into the life cycle, so we'll do the stages of dreaming all over again, or we can pour from there into ascension, which is a stagnant place of not much movement until it gets too much and we decide to move. So at that point, we either enter the death cycle, because you can ascend from death, or the life cycle, you can ascend from life. So you can also be kicked out of the ascended life into one of the two, because they are the boundaries of ascension, life and death combined. What I'm trying to say, beloved ones, is that we can do the predictable thing and either ascend by moving into that Vesica Pisces, or we go back into the old dream stages. When we get to point B, we have to decide whether to do the death, the 4 cycles all over again. And if we've missed major perceptions, then we have to do it all over again. Or if we will go back and do the stages of dreaming all over again. This time it will be sort of at a higher plane, because we will have gathered so much power from the death cycle, but nevertheless, same old experiences.
And they just loaded up on almeendiary.com. Almeen was talking about what is about to happen, has never happened before, in her conversation with the angel god. Beautiful, talking about the cosmic life cycles and the different paths that are available to us at the coming crossover point, which is scheduled for July the 22nd, 2018. And we'll see if that date stays valid as we're going along. But what stunning synchronicity. There, Almeen was talking about the Earth's mesh has broken and groundbreaking perception has been achieved. And yet at the beginning of the show, we discussed the aspects of how, the Earth is opening up sinkholes, volcanoes are all exploding. And I'm fascinated by Hawaii is that they are celebrating the explosion of that huge volcano. And the pictures, the videos, the movies that are being made of it are absolutely incredible. But I think from afar it looks brilliant. But imagine being trapped in all of that and losing everything. That's also another dynamic that one has to work through and understand. And yet the people of Hawaii seem to be celebrating a lot of Pele, the god, now erupting. But certainly the Earth's core has shattered and so much is happening. And of course we have Nicaragua, Guatemala happening at the same time. Lots of these processes going on. Absolutely intense, absolutely extreme. And we need to look at it. But yeah, stunning synchronicity. And there we go. We're going to play out now with some beautiful another choir called Libera Solo. And this is a track called Angel. It's the official song from their album called Hope, and you can get that up on YouTube and online at Libera Official. Listen to the clarity and purity of this beautiful solo by Isaac London, singing with Libera Solo. And that's it for tonight. We're running a few minutes late as usual, but better late than never, or is that just a belief system? So from us, Naresh Huspata, Blavit Rechvatu, Nusarat, Ubesri. Love, praise, and gratitude. See you next week.
Angel, take your wings and fly, watching over me. See me through my night time and be my leading light. Angel, you have found the way, never fear to dread. You'll be a friend to me. Angel, spread your wings and fly. Voces angelorum gloria, dona eis pace. For you're always near to me, in my joy and my sorrow, for you ever care for me, lifting my spirits to the sky, where a million angels singing in amazing harmony, and the words of love they bring to the never-ending story. A million voices sing to the wonder of the light, so I hide beneath your web. You are my guardian, angel of mine. Cantate Shelley, chorus angelorum, venite adoramus celestum, salite saecula et saeculorum, laudate Deo in gloria. Can you be my angel now, watching over me? Comfort and inspire me to see our journey through. Can I be your friend indeed, from all care set free? The clouds would pass away, then I'd be an angel too. Voces angelorum
You've been listening to Radio Belvaspita, South Africa. Thank you for listening and sharing in our discussion. Should you have any questions with regards to the healing modality of Belvaspita or have any healing needs, please send us an email to info@belvaspita.co.za or add comments to our page on Spreaker.com so we can work on providing a suitable response. We now close this episode with the eternal ascension qualities of love, praise, gratitude and trust, and look forward to sharing again with you next week. Goodbye.